Right, it is the closing of the transfer window this Friday, and we wanted to just get a little bit in front of it, this sort of podcast before the chaos at the end of the week, and kind of just have a little bit of a run through and have a think about who's had the best and the worst transfer windows in the Championship. So, Sam, I'll do a little bit of a summing up, and you can any sort of headline teams that you want to pick out in a positive or a negative way, you can jump in. Before I begin, remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Championship where top players don't hang around because they go to teams higher up the ladder. And also, we love you, football fans. You're our lifeblood, but football fans skew wildly optimistic about every single transfer that happens. Not all of them work out, and not every squad in the Championship will be better than it was last season, even though we all kind of think as fans that it will be. And we do still have until Friday. But Sam, I'll start off with the teams that kind of lost their star players, really, and how they've managed to mitigate that. You've already mentioned Blackburn, who have lost Smodics, but Gay and Ahashi have delivered so far. We'll see how that pans out through the season. Norwich have lost Sarah, and I guess we still expect one more out before the window closes. Cernak is going to be an interesting one. Expensive young Croat striker in there. Forson, I've already said I like the look at. Norwich tend to recruit well, but I'm throwing my arms up on that one, Sam. We don't know. Could be knowing Norwich, it'll probably be really good, won't it? Hull, I'm a little bit less hot on. Sam, Greaves and Philogene were stars. Giles, Hughes, Miller, Burstow. You can tell me whether that's I know it's a net gain in numbers. You can tell me whether it's a net gain in quality. And then Sunderland and Watford, where I would have had them both pegged as, oh dear, Clark out for Sunderland, Asprilla and Kone out for Watford, and kind of freeze and loans. Well, they're first and second in the league, Sam. So short term, it's not been a problem. Whether it will be long term. What are your thoughts? Do you want to pick out any clubs from those that you think have done well or been damaged by our players going?
Well, I think Hull's an interesting one because I thought the back end of last season, hearing the noise come out of there and the aspirations and what they hoped they could achieve under Liam Rosenior with that squad, it seems like they're a little bit undercooked this season when you think Zaruri, Carvalho, Philogene, Greaves. I mean, it was a terrifically talented squad that they ended the campaign with. Probably not sustainable for this season in keeping the players, also, probably budget-wise as well. So I would, question if those players are going to have enough. I'm always really hopeful that Mason Burstow is going to do some good things, but, obviously hardly got an opportunity at Sunderland and probably didn't do well enough when he did get minutes. So I'd love him to get up and running because there's definitely some quality there. I'd pick out Sheffield United. You didn't obviously mention them.
They're coming in the parachute segment, Sam. So hold your fire on them.
Okay. So no, I think I can't think who else you mentioned there, but Hull would be the ones that I'd probably speak about being a little bit underwhelming. Blackburn, I think, despite there being relatively unknowns, the guys that they've brought in, there looks to be real quality there. And Smodics is going to be so difficult to replace just because of the ability that he had to play different positions and the frequency that he was scoring with. I can't remember exactly, but his percentage of goals in terms of the team's goals last season was probably the highest. I think it certainly was for the majority of the season. So he's going to be, a large hole to fill, but they look like they've moved really well in the market.
So the parachute teams, Burnley, I've just written down madness because it's already like something like 35 million in and 35 million spent and 45 million in or something, to that effect. And there's going to be more as well for Burnley. So I'll plead the fifth there. Sheffield United, which I think you're keen to talk about, have raised good money for Archer and Ashula. Burrows, Cooper, Moore, McCallum, O'Hare, Shackleton, Campbell, Gilchrist, Raksaki and Sutar. really good squad padding Championship-wise. My one question, which you can answer in a minute, would be, what's the ceiling there? Are there players there who can, if they do get promoted to the Premier League, who can go and do it there? Or have they bought purely a team to get them out of the Championship in the short term, and that's the deal? Luton have done exactly what we expected them to. Although I wonder whether they overpaid a bit for Mark McGuinness. I mean, Luton never overpay for anybody, do they? But that's the one big in. And Leeds are doing what we thought they'd do as well. It's been chaotic on the outs. And obviously, there was a big worry for Rutter, Gray, Somerville to be replaced. It looks like they're making moves now, doesn't it? Ramazani was in last week. We're expecting the lad who's at Spurs, whose name I've forgotten now, but going to be a striker coming in, and another winger as well. And like you mentioned, links for Chester. I think Leeds are going to be all right, but that's the state of play with the parachute teams. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Burnley is difficult to get a handle on. I think they definitely need another striker. Burnley, just to throw that in there straight away. This will probably be a reoccurring theme when we're talking about.
Just say thank you to Alex in the chat. Manor Solomon was the name.
I mean that would be an incredibly good sign, and I'll come to him in a minute. But yeah, Burnley, I think it probably did have an effect on Scott Parker going into that Sunderland game, knowing that O'Shea was probably going to be moving on, was probably quite a tough one to take when you're looking to build that platform. But I think given that Rodriguez is still kind of playing second fiddle to Lyle Foster, they want to move in that department. Looks like the wide positions, which they've kind of probably been famed for over the last couple of years with Zaruri and Benson and Koleosho and a few Odubert, who's obviously moved on to Spurs. They're looking to move there with, I think, Sarmiento and Anthony were rumoured yesterday. I don't know how close they are or if they've been done, but it looks like Burnley are going to be really busy. And again, you just got to hold and take a breath, because I think Leeds and Burnley in particular are going to look very different in a few days' time. Ramazani's obviously already come in terms of a wide player to replace Somerville, or to add them a little bit of quality there. Would Leeds need another striker? Maybe not. Maybe not with Piru and the emergence of the lad whose name you're going
to... Joseph started against Sheffield Wednesday, and Solomon, we talked about possibly coming. I think someone's going to come in that. They don't seem to. Piru doesn't seem to work there, even though I thought that was a great signing at the time.
Yeah, no. I think Harrison, like I've said to you, is going to be a huge plus for them this year back there. So yeah, they're going to look very different. I think Sheffield United, to answer your point, I think it's probably a combination of two. You've probably got a few players that they've brought in for short-term gain to get them out of the Championship. But then if you look at certainly the Coventry too, there's obviously rumours about Hamer moving on again, strong rumours about him moving on again, but he will deserve his opportunity in the Premier League once more when that comes. O'Hare, I think naturally will become a Premier League player. Burrows as well, you could say. Raksaki, obviously Aloni, Gilchrist, they could be guys that are going to feature in the Premier League in years to come. So, and if they have a successful year this year, what's to say that they can't keep them for a year back in the Premier League, maybe on loan? So I think it's a bit 50-50 there. Players that might be able to make the step up. But in terms of a Championship squad, I really like the look of their business, because it's got that combination of kind of potential and also players that have been doing it consistently for their club. Someone like Cooper, the goalkeeper, has thoroughly deserved his move as well. So I really like what they've done. Whether it's enough to be certainties, we'll have to wait and see. But I like the look of Sheffield United squad, and still there, probably another midfielder to come in, and maybe another front player as well as a plan B to Kiefer Moore. I don't think Kiefer Moore is going to play you 90 minutes too regularly, so they probably need someone else, slightly different profile, to probably someone who can play a little bit on the shoulder and down the sides in contrast to what he brings.
Three I've got bracketed together, Sam, ones that didn't get in the playoffs but possibly have already had their star players pilfered, and that's Bristol City, Coventry and Middlesbrough, who I would argue, I'd be interested in your take and what the chat say, probably their squads are better than last season. So Bristol City have sold Conway, but have now got Twine, Maluku and Armstrong in. Coventry, lost O'Hare. Their fans are very bullish that doesn't weaken them because he didn't play enough games, but maybe they doth protest too much on that. But I really like, look, Rudoni, Thomas Asante, Basete, Dovin, the goalkeeper. So you could argue Coventry are, assuming they don't sell sheep, are better than last season. And Middlesbrough, Conway, Hamilton, Morris, Bergzog, okay, they were heavily weakened last season. But do you kind of agree that all three of those are a little touch better than last season, potentially? And, you know, they were not far from the playoffs, all of them, were they?
Yeah, certainly not weakened. And I think if you look at Coventry, you know, they're certainly one of the teams that I would have been really excited about coming back because of the second season scenario for Sakamoto and Haji Wright, people like that who I thought in pockets last season were really good. So yeah, Radoni's an eye-catching signing, that's for sure. Bristol City, I always admire, you know, some of the pickups. Mayulu looks to certainly have a little bit of quality. Scott Twine is a prodigal son in my eyes, given his Swindon background. So yeah, big fan of his. Of course, you'd expect him to hit the ground running, given it's Liam Manning and the place he knows well. So yeah, I would probably agree with you on all three, really. I don't think Middlesbrough have done anything to diminish their chances of being successful this season. And I think the opening 3 games have shown us that Middlesbrough are a good, well-coached side. Just need to start taking their chances and they'll have a great opportunity of being in that top 6.
They do. Look, guys, we'll go forever if I run through everything else I've got in my notes. So get involved in the comments. We'll clip this one out as to, you know, who's had a really good window, who's had a not so good window. Other ones you might want to mention in your comments. 9 in at QPR, 9 in at Sheffield Wednesday. I think 12 in at Portsmouth as well. We've got Cardiff. We haven't mentioned Derby. 9 in there at Derby as well. McGuinness obviously out of Cardiff. Millwall, not much, but no big outs. Oxford loads in there as well. Plymouth loads in, but Cooper out. Stoke, normal, decent backing for them. West Brom looks fairly sensible. Swansea, again, a few interesting ins in there. So get your comments in on who's had the best and worst windows in the Championship.